Hey there YouTube, it's Speedy Two Finger, and tonight we finished this amp. It's a stereo, battery powered, 50 watt times 2. There's 2 speaker outputs, 2 fuses, one for the preamp, one for the power amp, 2 power switches, 2 LEDs. I know that's a little bit goofy, but that's kind of going back to the chassis. The chassis had those 2 switches in there, so I just wired it that way. But there's a master volume, and then there's a bass, mid-range, treble, and gain control for the preamp. And it's a bass, it's an actual bass guitar voiced EQ. Now, how this started, we were at the resale and they had a little cube. It was a subwoofer, and it was half price. It was $4, and that was a sub speaker. Now, in audio, we have frequency, so there's like treble, mid-range. That's where the guitar is, and then the bass guitar is down there. But then below the bass guitar, we have the sub frequencies, and this is like hip hop and rap. Do, dog. Well, we don't play, this is a bass guitar, and it doesn't go, that's not the music that we make. We make rock, I guess, and we play a bass. And the subwoofer speaker, you certainly can connect a bass guitar to a subwoofer and try that out. I haven't really done that very often, because I know that the sub speaker is tuned for sub bass and a bass guitar is in a higher frequency range. So you really need a bass guitar speaker. So I got this cabinet. It had an 8-inch, and I'm a 15 guy. I don't like 10s, I don't like 12s, I like 15s. And that's because I never tried an 18. If I tried an 18 or a 21, I'd be all about 21. I don't know if you know Bootsy Collins, Bootzilla. He's got, it's something like 8 18s, 12 15s, and then 8 by 10s or something. It's like, it's literally, I would love to experience that. Now, long story short, we got this cabinet. It looked cool, and I thought, wouldn't that be nice to have just, we've got bigger stuff. But wouldn't it be nice to have something small that bumped, that produced a satisfying low frequency response? So I thought, well, let me try this. I went looking on the 8-inch bass speaker, and I found this company. I forget the name of them. They were selling these Eminence brand, which is a really good speaker. They were like $140, and they had them. They were blowing them out for $29. So I bought one, and I could not believe how good, how much low end. Like, we went out, we had a couple of tons, like PA speakers with 10-inch drivers, and then we used the single Eminence bass speaker as our sub cabinet. Because we're not playing hip hop. There is a kick drum in the music we do, but it's not a do. It's more of a thump. It's a kick drum, So we tested it out with our little mini PA rig, which is 100 watt for the sub, and then there's 50 per channel for the satellites. And it sounded fantastic. As a matter of fact, I had to take it easy. I had to watch it because the bass frequency was was massive. Now I did install a port in that. I used, I think it was 1.5 inch PVC pipe. So I ran that just about the length of it, and then I have a 90 and ran it all the way up to the top with about 3/4 of an inch gap, and hot glued that all in there. And Bob's your uncle, you know. And I came to that by reading and estimating. I know you're not supposed to do that. It'll chafe, it'll chiff, it'll chuff. It does all these horrid things if you don't get the software and type in all of the variables, being the inner dimensions of the box, the target frequency, and then the dimensions of the tube. And if you do all that, it'll give you exactly how long and the dimension of the proper porting. So rather than go through that, that's just not the way I do things. I'm sorry. I gave it a shot, and then it was like, you have to buy the software. And it was like, you know what? After reading what guys were doing, I got the impression that 2 inches would have been probably too much, and 1 inch would have been too little. So I went with 1.5 inches because that's what I had. And it worked great. Now, right after that, we found, aren't you glad you tuned in? We found another subwoofer that's just a little bit bigger, but it had a reflex, which is, this is where the port is built in and it's conical. It looks like a black hole. It's like perfectly shaped. And that's something to do with really making it optimally functional. Like it because it's curved like that, it does something better for the low frequency enhancement. Base reflex. I think that's that type of port when you see it curved like that. So yeah, we got another cabinet that was a little bit bigger. I ordered another one of those Eminence 8s, popped it in there. And then I got this. Somebody gave me this box. It was a Decade box that was fried. The components were burnt inside of it. And the guy told me, you know, you don't try using this. You're going to have to gut it and replace all of the components. I said, oh, don't worry about it. I don't know if he'd be mad. I think he would. Maybe he'd think it's cool. But we built it, and the first amp that I put in it, I had never ordered one of these before. It's a tpa3116. TDA3116 D2. But this one was like $14. Usually they're like $6. This one was 14, and the power rating was goosed. It was like, I come to think that it might just have 4 of the power amp chips, and they're bridged 2 and 2 on each channel. That's what I think. Don't quote me. I could be wrong. All I know was when I finished with the amp build, this worked fine. It was just it was too much power and for what we're doing, and I'm thinking, well, this is a battery amp, and it was hissing like when we weren't playing. It was like the speakers were going like like kind of loud, and that may have been the way that I had wired the modification for the master volume, but I don't think so. And I still have this amp, so I will more to come with this later, when I need that kind of power. Our main PA that we run is Class D, and it's something that I've hacked together. You can see us using that on this channel all the time on our remote jam videos when my wife and I are making music outdoors. That's one of these types of things powering it, although it's significantly larger. It's a 600 watt, 300 watts for the subwoofer channel, and 150 per channel for the satellite speakers. So I thought, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pull this amp out of here, pull this board, $14 board out of here, because this is a battery rig. This is all supposed to be smaller, but at the same time, you know, I had 1.8 and then I got 2 to just kind of like make it like, you know, and then I had this and I thought, you know, put this on top of those 2 speakers would be like a little mini bass stack. Like, this is so cool. Like, to me, this is really cool. And as a matter of fact, the only other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make custom speaker cables for it, because the ones that I have now are a little bit longer, and they're I want to make them so they just fit perfectly, you know, and with some serious gauge wire. So yeah, long story short, I've been building Class D amplifiers, I should say hacking them, for a while. And I've done quite a few tpa3116 D2 mono amps and stereo. We have a pair of these. We have 2 of these, well, 3 now, for 5. Yeah, the amps that have this with this EQ, 6, 7. I've got quite a few of these, and for the longest time I never had any problem. Now I ordered the mono or the stereo 50x2. It came in, and I didn't test it. I wired the whole thing up and it didn't work. So we got our money back. The board was bad. And I went all over it and did my troubleshooting thing, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong. So I ordered another one. We got our $6 back. I ordered another one. That one comes in. This one, I do a test. I plug everything in, because when the first one didn't function, I did a test. I got out speaker connectors, a power connector, a multimeter, MP3 player, a custom cable that I built, and set all this up on a table and filmed myself showing how there's set and forget trimmers on the board, and if I turn the one up, you can hear it passing audio. One channel was working, the other channel wasn't working. Turn the other channel up, get nothing. So I had made that video, and we got our money back. We ordered another one, it comes in. I set the test rig up, because I don't want to go through the hassle of wiring into this chassis, because you got to remove the trimmers. You remove the trimmers, those 2 little volume adjusters, you unsolder those, and then you solder in wires that go to a dual potentiometer. So then you have a master volume knob for the power amp. And I don't want to go through all that and wiring into this chassis with, I use real large gauge wires for the speaker outputs and for the power input. So it's not exactly like you're just tacking little wires on the back of the board. Everything is insulated, and it's a pain in the neck. I insulate everything, because it's like it's mounted on these little metal standoffs. There's barely enough room back there. So I insulate it, and it's a job. You know, it takes a few hours. Second board was bad. Same thing. Didn't pass audio on the one channel. So long story short, I went on I made another video, and it was like I had the same album. Like if the guys at the guy, I got like basically the same song. It's the same artist. I'm testing it out, and it just kind of looked like, is this guy sending the same video in twice for the same amp problem? Is he trying to pull a fast one here? But they refunded me. Ordered another one. That one came in today. We set up the test, and it worked. Now I started cutting it into the chassis here, and all of a sudden, what's that? It's an SMT capacitor that fell off of it. So it had gotten, they mail them to you just in like bubble wrap, and they're getting stepped on, they're getting smashed in shipping. That's what's happening. Because when I went on the internet to see what was up after getting two bad ones in a row, because like I said, I had been getting them for years. I've been doing this. I never had a problem. And everyone was saying the same thing. When they order these things, they have to go through and fix all kinds of stuff that's bad. And on this board that's in here now, there was two of the SMT, the little silver, they look like little fuel tanks. The aluminum, the little electrolytic, they were like 330s. Two of those. One fell off, the other one was dig. And then at the top there are these a different type of capacitor. It's probably not electrolytic, but it's a 330 nonetheless. These black ones. So everything on this side was bad. It was all in a row. So something came down on that side. I'm guessing it happened in shipping. But I had the other two faulty amp boards, and I had lightly put some pressure on the heatsink to try to pop it off, and it ripped the chip out. So one of them didn't have the heatsink in the way, and I could get in there with the soldering iron and access the soldering points real easily. So I wedged a hobby knife underneath there, and with the big handle on it, and then would heat the solder up and put down pressure on it, lift it up, go on the other side, pull the knife up, put the knife in, and then put some pressure on the other side. And after two of those repetitions of lightly applying pressure and melting the solder, they would pop free. So I was able to remove those components, and then I touched up the bottoms of them. I applied paste flux and tinned the connective area nicely, and then I tinned the on the board. I got that prepped up nice, and everything. I made it a point to not overheat anything and not force anything. And then when I installed it, I double made sure that it wasn't going anywhere, that it indeed was really soldered in there well. So ultimately, the point that I'm making in this video is it looks like the good old days are gone for buying those. They're twice as much money on eBay. They're for that, the tpa3116, the 50x2, I think they're 13, and you can get them for six and change, maybe 7. So is it the case that AliExpress is selling, like, these vendors are they're getting a bucket of these chips for a couple of bucks because the manufacturer has tested them and determined that there's an issue. So all the ones with the issues go in a bucket, and then they sell it to this guy over here who puts them on Ali for $7. And if you get the $12 one from eBay, it actually works. Or get it from Amazon. So if you made it all the way through this video and you're going to be doing a project and you don't feel like having to monkey around with it, maybe your troubleshooting and soldering skills aren't like, I'm not good at this stuff, but I'm not bad at it. And I'm careful, and I'm like I always call myself a hack, but really I'm not at all. I'm really not a hack. Okay? I'm a goof, but I'm not a hack. Like I try. Now, there's that clumsy factor that comes in with me wrecking stuff, you know. And there's the nickname, Mr. Reverse Polarity is one of my nicknames. There's a theme song. But all that aside, as far as moving forward, now I know. If you're planning on doing a project, and I've got a box with 2 of these up there that are like 5 years old, they're good ones, meaning none of the parts wobble. And one of these days I'm going to access that area because it's kind of hard to get to, but I'm going to get that thing down and pull those boards out of there because I know they're good. So that was my point of telling this whole story, was to kind of show off my amp. It's working. It sounded good. We have yet to play the bass through this. And I don't know, like, as far as like the way I really want to run this. Okay? She's got this multi-effector now that's really trippy. It's got this Terra Echo in it. And I was thinking, well, I built some splitters, some active splitters. And then we've got other effects. Like we got a real nice Zoom B2. And we got a Korg. We got a little Korg Pandora that's just full of bass patches that are excellent. And taking the root idea of a clean patch, an auto wah, and then an overdrive. And she has foot control for that. So maybe we could do this thing where she could have her bass split and go to that Zoom, which would go to this, which would be by her. And that would be like her amp. And then all the bass that's coming through the PA on the 210 sub would be all that goofy effects. And I know it sounds crazy, but I mean, like, we're a duo, we're a power duo. So anything we can add to fill it out is going to help. So that's just what I was thinking about. Like, I've got this thing called the Moore Ocean machine, which is just a stereo delay and with tap tempo, and I could add that to my rig. It's not that big of a deal to add it. It's a couple cables, a foot controller, and a power supply, and then that would give me a little expanded extreme stereo effects. So maybe we'll see that coming up this season with these remotes, with this expanded bass rig. Also, we can bridge those 2 cabinets and run them off of the, I'm pretty sure when you combine them, they're about 8 or 7 ohms, so they probably come down to like around 4 or like 3.75 ohms. And these amps can handle that. So however this goes into play, and like it's neat because these amplifiers they have controls for that. You can set the target frequency and you can set the volume for it for just the sub channel. So it's not a big deal. And this was kind of like I built it because it'll look really cool sitting on top of it. And then also we could do a gig where she's not even hooked into the PA. Because the bass was always a problem with that PA. It really was. So her having her own thing, or maybe just piping a little bit of it over to the PA and then getting the gusto of it through these cabinets. And the thing is they're eights. The boxes are like this. They're not going to take up a bunch of room in the car. Too much, So, as far as how we apply these things, we shall see. But this is the coolest thing that I've built in a long time, and I would seriously I would love to join a band and play bass just to bring this rig out. To have the 410 or the 210. With the main straight sound, and then put the effects on this stereo thing. Run the Terra Echo through that. The Terra Echo on bass is really cool. It's really cool. You guys are going to hear that. We're kind of featuring that. This horrific filtered delay all over all the bass tracks. On this new set, we've got new music. We've got, as of yesterday, it was 16 songs. I think I'm cutting 2 of them. I've been adding stuff and cutting stuff. I've been going back and grabbing a couple things from here and there. Old 57, tried that out. I don't think so. But songs about cats. There's a song called Rocking Chair that I did on 0202 Slow Malone. I absolutely love that song. Rocking Chair. And it's about being on a rocking chair and you're falling asleep. The cat's out there with you purring, and then his tail goes and you crank his tail on the rocking chair and you're like, yeah. And then he starts purring again. But anytime a cat gets hurt, it's hilarious to me because they're such horrific little beasts. We act like they're so cute, but like they're just annoying. They're like how they listen to us. They listen to our babies and mimic baby cries so they can manipulate us. Like, what a evil little creature. Like that's some satanic shit right there. That's the devil's work. But yeah, we got another one, Pinchy Winch, and that's kind of like there's some demonic cat stuff going on in there. The kittens are communicating in their weird little monkey voices, and there's some pissed off hissing in there. And we got as far as Chicky Will Beat and what other cat stuff. I don't know. Some of this music I write, I hear cat cries in the song. Like I'll put a phase shifter on just the crash cymbal. Like, if you ever heard Led Zeppelin, they would have the phaser on the overhead mics when Bono would do his solo, and then sometimes it would just pick up on the crash cymbals. So I started doing that, and when it's in the full mix, oftentimes I just hear a cat cry. So I'll go into I have a huge library of cat sound effects. a lot of them, they're like, oh, this is cat sound effect. It's just like you were torturing it. Like that cat is in duress. Like I don't want to hear that. So I do need to go in there and edit that and get some of those like cats that they like tortured with a microphone to get a sound effect. I got to get some of that stuff out of there. But yeah, we've got songs about cats, and we're going to be using this amp here, which I'm really proud, and I'm super happy that this is done. Moving forward, I have a project that sat for an incredibly long time that's called the incredibly annoying, ridiculously silly Springamathing or something like that. Got this project. It's basically, it's a fucking box. If you turn this thing on, the cops are going to come. That's pretty much the gist of it. So that's going to happen. It's been sitting on the kitchen table for over a year, and I've just been like kind of in limbo with this like back injury and quitting drinking and lethargy and all this. I'm gonna do that project. I'm gonna start working on it. What happened was I bought a stepped drill bit that was really large, and I had this large metal box, and I was drilling with the 18 volt with that stepped drill bit, enlarging holes for speakers, and it grabbed, and it almost broke my wrist, and it threw the box, and it went flying halfway across the apartment. And it was full of hardware, so the hardware went everywhere, and it messed me up. I got hurt, it wasn't good. And because I got injured like that, because I had premonitions about injuring myself on this chassis, this job, it's an overwhelming job. This is a really ridiculous thing that I'm going to be building, and it's going to take some time. But that is going to happen. That's happening. That's going to happen. And I've just been like soul-crushingly depressed. This year was not good. I'm not drinking. Hooray for me. We've got an album coming out. I'm working on that. It's going to drop on Valentine's Day, so I want you guys to be here for that. I need people to listen to the music and tell me what they think of it. It's not a lot to ask. It's like 35 minutes. I do this every year. I just need people to listen to it and comment. That's what I need you to do. You don't have to consider, oh, he's just some guy with two fingers. He reached under a lawnmower. He shouldn't even be playing guitar. You don't have to think any of that. Just listen to it. Don't give me a break. Don't go easy on me. Come at me like I should be Eddie Van Halen. Come at me like I should be Yngwie Malmsteen, because I should. So I'd love to get some feedback on it's Valentine's Day. 82 Fingers Tender Moments. It's an album of love songs that I did. So you're going to want to stick around for that. Order some bubbly and some lobsters, some barnacles, whatever kind of crab, cake, clam, sauce. You can get it all ready to go, because it's going to be the romance of the ages when 82 Fingers Tender Moments drops on Valentine's Day, February 14th of 2024. All right, you guys. I love you all. Hug your pets, and peace.